Thank you for joining me here today. If you want to follow along, we will be in the book of Jonah, Jonah chapter 2. Hope you had a great weekend. Appreciate you starting your week out here. Again, I'll ask you if you will to like, share, comment on the post, and then we'll jump into Jonah's prayer. Jonah's prayer here from the belly of the great fish. Again, verse 1 we looked at Saturday, that he's praying. Here is the prayer. He says, I called out to the Lord out of my distress, and he answered me out of the belly of Sheol. I cried, and you heard my voice. For you cast me into the deep and into the heart of the seas, and the flood surrounded me. All your waves and your billows passed over me. This is an interesting, I think, statement that Jonah is making. First of all, he recognizes and confesses here that he was in a situation that he had no control over, that he had no hope for. He was in distress. He felt like he was in hell, and he acknowledges that he feels like he's as good as dead in his mind. And he begins to cry. And the very first thing he says in this verse is something very encouraging for all of us when he says, I cry out to the Lord, and he answered me. That even considering everything that Jonah has done or not done, that all the events that have happened over the last however many days now, that God had not abandoned Jonah, that God had not completely turned his back on Jonah when Jonah finally recognized his condition, his situation, and called out to God. He actually says twice here. He says in this verse, he's out of my distress. He answered me. I cried, and you heard my voice. So twice he actually acknowledges that God that God did respond to his situation, and that's a great, I hope, encouragement for you that we find ourselves in many situations, some of them like Jonah, of our own making. Sometimes maybe not our own making, other circumstances that happen around us that discourage us and have us defeated, but yet particularly when they're of our own making. There's when we maybe feel like, well, there's no reason that God should respond because of what I've done and or what I've not done, because of the decisions I've made, and yet God answered Jonah, and just gives us encouragement to know that God is that kind of God, that God is a compassionate, God is a forgiving God, and that he cares. One of the other things I notice about this statement is that Jonah admits, he acknowledges that through it all, God was in control. Up until this point, Jonah thought he was in control. God wanted Jonah to go to Nineveh, and he says, I won't go. I'll go somewhere else. I don't have to go. I'll do things my way. But here he says, you cast me into the deep, not the sailors. He said, you did it. Now, you may want to split hairs there and say that in reality Jonah did it to himself, but God was the one who was exacting punishment, correction on Jonah's life. And Jonah doesn't blame the sailors for what happened. Don't know that at this point he's completely taking responsibility for his own actions, but again, he's not blaming anybody else. He's realizing that God has used these people, these sailors, to get his attention, to get him where God wanted him to be. And as we're going to walk through the rest of this prayer in the next couple of days. But again, it just starts out with such a great little reminder to us, and hopefully an encouragement to you that even when we have, like Jonah, made our own bad decisions and got ourselves in a mess, that when we acknowledge that those decisions, when we acknowledge that we have we have been disobedient, when we have not been obedient, done the things that God would have us to do, that God is a God who answers, who hears our prayers. And so my encouragement today to you would be, and listen, all of us have been there. We get in places where we've had it happen, probably earthly, humanly, where we've messed up so bad that it's hard to go back to the person and admit. It's hard to go back. You've as a child, you've messed up. It's hard to go to your parents, your boss, whatever. We've all had those kinds of situations where we've made a mess, and it's difficult to call or meet someone. I remember many years ago totaling a company car. One of the hardest phone calls I ever made was to call. Not only was it a company car, it was a brand new company car. I just got it, and it didn't even have but a few hundred miles on it, and so I did $13,000 damage to a $11,000 car. To call your boss and to tell them that. And it's hard sometimes to admit. And furthermore, it was my fault. To call and admit that. How much harder is it sometimes for us to go to God? But it shouldn't be, is what Jonah's teaching us here. God is a God who hears our prayers. God is a God who answers when we call. So wherever you've been, whatever you've done, God still listens. I want to share real quickly a story, a brief story. I'm going to try to abbreviate it. Some of you have heard me tell it before. It's one of those things that ever since I read it the first time has really stuck in my mind. Max Lucado tells in one of his books about a young girl, I believe in Brazil, who kept wanting to go into the city, and her mama kept telling her, "Don't go. You'll end up in drugs, prostitution, whatever." And one morning she woke up, and sure enough, her daughter had left. And Mama saved up enough money, went into town. She got into town, she took pictures of herself and went around to all the bars, every place, kind of every seedy joint in town, and hung that picture up in those places. And we went home, and she ran out of money. One evening, the young girl was coming down from upstairs, having sold herself to a man. And she came down the stairs, and she looked, and she saw something that looked familiar, and it was her mama. And she went over, and she pulled the picture down off the wall, and she turned it around on the back of it, and it said, "Wherever you've been, whatever you've become, whatever you've done, I still love you. Come home." That's a message from God this morning for all of us. Wherever you've been, whatever you've done, whatever you've become, I still love you. Jonah, here's your second chance. Think about it. You have a good day. We'll see you here tomorrow morning.